Maya sat at her desk, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the keyboard as she finalized the marketing campaign for the upcoming product launch. The colorful visuals danced on her screen, each image meticulously selected to reflect the vibrant essence of the new skincare line. She had poured her heart and soul into this project, and the excitement buzzing in her chest felt like the start of something big. However, the undercurrent of tension in the office gnawed at her. It was a bright Tuesday morning, and the usual hum of chatter and laughter filled the marketing department. Yet Maya sensed a shift in the atmosphere whenever her boss, Mr. Thompson, entered the room. A middle-aged man with a stern expression and an air of authority, he had built a reputation for his sharp business acumen, but was also known for his harsh management style. He often belittled employees who didn't meet his high standards, and Maya had become a frequent target of his biting remarks. Maya. Mr. Thompson barked from his office, his voice echoing through the open space. Get in here. Maya's heart sank. She took a deep breath, smoothed her blouse, and walked towards his office, trying to quell the flutter of anxiety in her stomach. As she entered, she found Mr. Thompson reviewing her campaign presentation. He glanced up, a sneer playing on his lips. Do you think this is good enough for the launch? It looks like you just threw a bunch of images together. Have you considered the target demographic? His words dripped with condescension, making it clear he believed her work was subpar. Maya swallowed her anger, reminding herself of her capabilities. I've researched the target demographic extensively, and these visuals align with our brand's message. They reflect the product's youthful appeal, which is crucial for reaching our audience. Mr. Thompson leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. You think just because you've done some research, you're an expert. I can't believe I have to babysit you through this. I expected more from you, Maya. This isn't what I had in mind when I hired you. The frustration bubbling within her threatened to spill over, but she fought to maintain her composure. I understand your concerns, but I believe in this direction. I'm confident it will resonate with our customers. He glared at her, and she could feel the tension thickening the air. Confidence doesn't matter if the work doesn't speak for itself. You're lucky I even let you stay on this team. If you don't shape up, I'll have to reconsider your position here. Maya's heart raced. His words struck hard, each one laced with racism that had grown increasingly apparent over the months. It wasn't just about her work, it was about who she was. She had seen how Mr. Thompson treated her colleagues differently based on their backgrounds, and now it felt like she was in the crosshairs. As she left his office, the taste of defeat lingered in her mouth. It was becoming increasingly difficult to fight against the wave of negativity. She returned to her desk, feeling the weight of her boss's disapproval crush her spirit. That afternoon, the marketing team gathered for a presentation to showcase their work to the higher-ups. Maya felt a flutter of hope. Perhaps today would be different. If she could present her campaign confidently, it might win over Mr. Thompson and prove her worth to the rest of the team. The meeting room buzzed with energy, and Maya stood at the front, ready to present. Her heart raced as she began to explain her vision for the campaign. The slides flickered to life behind her, vibrant images capturing the essence of the product. She could see her colleagues nodding in appreciation, their eyes lighting up at her ideas. But when Mr. Thompson entered the room, his presence darkened the atmosphere. He watched with crossed arms, his expression unreadable. As she finished, there was a moment of silence, and then, as if he had been waiting for her to slip up, he spoke. Let me get this straight, he interrupted, his tone dripping with disdain. You think this is good enough? Look at the colors. They're all over the place. It lacks coherence. This isn't the level of professionalism I expect from my team. Maya's heart dropped as her colleagues exchanged uncomfortable glances. I believe it's cohesive with our message, she replied, her voice steady, though her insides churned with anxiety. Your belief doesn't matter if it doesn't translate into results. You should know that by now. Frankly, I'm disappointed, he retorted, his voice echoing harshly against the walls. Maya felt the heat rise to her cheeks. This wasn't just criticism, it was a personal attack. The meeting ended with Mr. Thompson's cold dismissal, leaving her reeling. As she gathered her things, she overheard whispers among her colleagues. Did you hear how he spoke to her? One said, "It's so unfair." "I can't believe he gets away with this," another replied. The validation of her colleagues was a small comfort, but it didn't ease the frustration swelling inside her. Why did she have to prove herself time and time again, while others received praise without question? Days turned into weeks, and the pressure from Mr. Thompson only intensified. He found new ways to undermine her, picking apart every project she led and making snide comments about her capabilities. Maya felt the walls closing in, suffocated by the atmosphere of racism and hostility. She began documenting every interaction, knowing that she needed evidence to back her claims if she decided to take action. Finally, the breaking point came during a team meeting. Maya had spent weeks working late nights to perfect a presentation for a crucial pitch. As she unveiled her ideas, she noticed Mr. Thompson's usual disdain had shifted to outright hostility. He interrupted her repeatedly, dismissing her ideas as naive and impractical. "Maybe if you focused more on your work instead of your social media presence, you'd have something to show for it," he sneered, his words laced with contempt. Mina's heart raced. How could he attack her character when she was working so hard? "I assure you, I'm fully committed to my work." "I? You know what? I don't have time for this. I'm done. You're fired, Maya," he declared, his voice cold and unyielding. The room fell silent. Maya stared in disbelief, her mind racing. This couldn't be happening. She had dedicated herself to this job, pouring her energy into every project, and yet here she was, dismissed without a second thought. "Get your things and leave," Mr. Thompson ordered, his voice final. The sting of humiliation washed over her. She stood there, her colleagues' eyes on her, some filled with pity, others in shock. With her heart pounding in her chest, she turned and walked out of the meeting room, the tears threatening to spill. As she gathered her belongings, she felt a wave of anger rise within her. This wasn't just about her job, it was about standing up against the injustice she had faced for far too long. She refused to let Mr. Thompson's racism and arrogance define her. That evening, sitting at her kitchen table, Maya resolved to fight back. She reached for her laptop and began researching wrongful termination and discrimination laws. The path ahead was daunting, but she felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. She wouldn't let this be the end. It was time to take a stand, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever faced the same struggle. The journey ahead would be challenging, but she was determined to confront her past, reclaim her voice, and seek justice. Little did she know, the person who could help her the most was someone she had never expected to meet again. The next morning, Maya sat at her kitchen table, a mug of lukewarm coffee growing cold beside her. She stared at her laptop, the bright screen illuminating her face, but her mind was clouded with frustration and confusion. The events of the previous day replay like a broken record in her mind. How could someone with so little regard for people's dignity hold such power over her life? Determined to take action, Maya spent hours diving deep into the intricacies of labor laws, wrongful termination, and discrimination cases. She meticulously noted every resource she found, bookmarking articles and legal advice sites. As she read, she could feel a sense of empowerment building within her, like a slowly igniting flame that could potentially turn into a roaring fire. After a few hours, she received a call from her best friend, Sarah. They had been friends since college, and Maya knew that she could always count on Sarah to support her during difficult times. "Hey girl, how are you holding up?" Sarah asked, her voice warm and comforting. Maya took a deep breath, letting out the tension she had been holding. "Honestly, I'm frustrated and confused. I got fired yesterday. It was so unfair, and I can't believe it's happening. I'm trying to find a way to fight back." "I'm so sorry to hear that. You don't deserve that, Maya. Have you thought about speaking with a lawyer?" Sarah suggested. Maya nodded, even though Sarah couldn't see her. "Yeah, I've been researching my options. I know I need to document everything, but I can't shake this feeling of hopelessness. Let's meet up. We can brainstorm and see what your next steps should be. You can't let them get away with this," Sarah encouraged. Maya felt a surge of gratitude. "Thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate your support. Let's meet at that coffee shop we love later. Sounds perfect. I'll see you there, Sarah said before hanging up. After their call, Maya felt a little more hopeful. She needed a plan, someone to talk to who could help her sort through the emotions and strategies swirling in her mind. But as she prepared to leave for the coffee shop, another thought gnawed at her. The identity of her father, Richard Carter, the CEO of the company. She had never met him, but knowing he was at the top of the hierarchy stirred a storm of emotions within her. While waiting for Sarah, Maya scrolled through her phone, searching for information about Richard. She found articles highlighting his success as a businessman and his philanthropic efforts. However, there was little personal information, and it only deepened her curiosity. Why had he left her? What kind of man was he? When Sarah arrived, she immediately sensed Maya's tension. You're deep in thought. What's on your mind? I found out that the CEO of the company is my father, Maya admitted, her voice low. I don't even know how to process that. What? That's huge. Have you ever met him? Sarah asked, her eyes wide with surprise. Maya shook her head. No, he left when I was a child. I can't believe he's been so close, and I never knew. I have so many questions, but I also feel so angry at him for abandoning me. How could I even approach him after everything? You deserve answers. Maybe he doesn't even know about what's happening with you, Sarah suggested. Maya contemplated this. But if I confront him, what if he doesn't care? What if he's just like Thompson? Sarah leaned in, her expression earnest. You won't know until you try. He could be your ally in this situation. You might be able to get the justice you deserve. Maya nodded, weighing the idea in her mind. She was terrified of rejection, but also knew that she needed to explore this avenue. As they talked, Maya's mind raced with possibilities. She decided to reach out to Richard, but she would need to gather her thoughts first. That evening, she found herself drafting an email, pouring her heart into the words. Subject: Request for a meeting. Dear Mr. Carter, I hope this message finds you well. My name is Maya Carter, and I am reaching out to you as your daughter. I have spent most of my life without knowing you, but I recently learned about your position as the CEO of the company where I work. I need to talk to you about an urgent matter regarding my recent dismissal and the discrimination I've faced while working there. It would mean a lot to me if we could set up a meeting. Thank you for your time, Maya. After hitting send, Maya felt a mixture of dread and hope. Would he respond? Would he even want to talk to her? Over the next few days, Maya threw herself into her research and prepared for a possible legal battle. She contacted a lawyer who specialized in employment discrimination, ready to arm herself with all the knowledge and support she could gather. The lawyer was supportive, outlining her rights and the steps they would take together. Documentation is key, the lawyer advised. We need to gather all evidence of discriminatory behavior. It may also help to have witnesses willing to speak on your behalf. Do you have anyone from the office who can back up your claims? Maya thought of her colleagues who had seen her interactions with Mr. Thompson, and her heart sank at the thought of dragging them into this. But she knew she needed allies. I can reach out to a few people, Maya replied. I think they would want to help. As she left the lawyer's office, she felt empowered for the first time since her firing. She had a plan, and she was determined to follow through. Later that day, a notification popped up on her phone. It was an email from Richard. Subject: Request for a meeting. Dear Maya, thank you for reaching out. I'm surprised and saddened to learn about your situation. I'd like to meet and discuss this matter further. How about we meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. in my office? Best. Richard. Maya's heart raced. The moment had come. She was going to meet her father. She felt a whirlwind of emotions, fear, anger, and an unexpected twinge of excitement. The next day, Maya arrived at the towering glass building that housed the corporate offices. The familiar, imposing structure that had once filled her with dreams now felt daunting. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of her purpose as she approached the receptionist. I'm here to see Mr. Carter, she said, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. Right this way, the receptionist smiled, gesturing for her to follow. As Maya walked through the sleek hallways, lined with modern art and glass partitions, She felt the weight of anticipation settle on her shoulders. What would she say? Would he accept her? When she reached Richard's office, she hesitated for a moment before knocking on the door. "Come in," a deep voice called from inside. Maya stepped into the office, and there he was, her father. Richard was tall, with graying hair and a commanding presence. He looked up from his desk and their eyes met. In that moment, the years of separation melted away, replaced by an overwhelming mix of emotions. "Hi, I'm Maya," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maya," Richard replied, standing up. "It's good to finally meet you." The words hung in the air, heavy with significance. Maya couldn't tell if she felt relief or dread, but one thing was clear: this meeting would change everything. Maya took a deep breath, steadying her nerves as she stepped into Richard's office. The air was thick with unspoken words, and the walls felt like they were closing in. She had imagined this moment countless times, but never quite knew what to expect. Now that she was here, facing her father for the first time, the gravity of the situation hit her like a tidal wave. Richard gestured for her to sit down, his expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Please, have a seat. I'm glad you reached out." Maya perched on the edge of the chair, her heart racing. "Thank you for meeting with me. I know this must be unexpected." Richard nodded, his brow furrowed slightly. "You have no idea. I was shocked to learn you were my daughter, and I'm saddened to hear about what you've been going through at the company. Tell me everything." His voice was steady, and for a brief moment, Maya felt a flicker of hope. But that hope was quickly overshadowed by the years of anger and resentment that bubbled beneath the surface. "It's hard to explain everything in just a few minutes, but I'll try," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been working in the marketing department for a while now, and recently I've faced a lot of discrimination from my boss, Mr. Thompson. He's belittled my work, made derogatory comments about my background, and then he fired me under false pretenses. It felt like everything I had accomplished was erased in an instant." Richard's expression shifted from concern to outrage. "That's unacceptable, Maya. I had no idea this was happening. No one should be treated like that, especially in my company." Maya felt a warmth spread through her at his words, but it was quickly extinguished by the anger she felt towards him. "But you had a chance to stop it. You've been in this position for years. You could have made a difference, but you didn't. You weren't there for me when I needed you." Richard sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "I know I can't change the past. I left when you were young because I thought it was what was best. Your mother—" "Don't." Maya interrupted, her voice sharp. "I don't want to hear excuses. You chose to walk away, and now you want to act like you care. Where were you all those years? Why did you never try to find me?" Richard's eyes glistened with a mixture of regret and pain. "I had my reasons. Your mother and I. It was complicated. I thought it would be better for you if I stayed away. I didn't want to disrupt your life. But I'm here now, and I want to support you. I'll do everything I can to help you fight against this injustice." Maya felt a conflict surge within her. On one hand, his words promised support, but on the other, the hurt from his abandonment lingered like a shadow. "Why should I believe you? You've been absent my whole life. How can I trust you now?" "I know I've lost your trust," Richard replied, his voice earnest. "But this isn't about me. It's about you. I want to make things right, not just for you, but for everyone who has faced discrimination in my company. I need to understand everything that's happening. Can you tell me more about Mr. Thompson and what he's done?" Maya took a deep breath, the weight of her experiences threatening to overwhelm her. "He's been belittling my work from the start. I've documented his comments and actions. He doesn't just treat me poorly. I've seen him do it to other employees who don't fit his mold of what a successful person should look like." "Do you have witnesses?" Richard asked, leaning forward, his interest piqued. "Yes, a few colleagues have expressed their concerns. I think they'd be willing to come forward if it means holding him accountable," Maya replied, her determination rising. "But I need to know that you'll back me up. I can't do this alone." "I'll make it my mission to ensure your voice is heard," Richard said, his tone resolute. "We'll gather evidence, and I'll start an internal investigation. This is a priority for me now." As Maya listened to him speak, she felt a glimmer of hope begin to push through the clouds of resentment. It was strange, feeling the possibility of a relationship with her father blooming amid her fight for justice. But still, a small voice in the back of her mind urged caution. Could she really trust him? The conversation shifted as Richard began asking her specific questions about her experiences at work. Maya detailed incidents of microaggressions and overtly racist comments from Mr. Thompson. With each story, she felt a weight lifting, as if finally voicing her pain was liberating. This is exactly what I need to address, Richard said, scribbling notes in a notepad. I'll take your concerns to HR and ensure they're thoroughly investigated. No one should feel unsafe or undervalued in my company. Thank you, Maya said, her voice softening. But it's not just about me. There are others who need help too. I want to create a safe space for everyone, regardless of their background. I can help with that if you're willing. Richard looked up, meeting her gaze with intensity. Absolutely. I want to implement changes in the company culture. It's time to foster an inclusive environment, and I can't do it without your input. Maya felt her heart swell with determination. Let's work together. I can help develop training programs, workshops, anything that can educate employees about diversity and inclusion. As they brainstormed ideas, Maya felt the walls between them beginning to crumble. For the first time, she could see her father not just as the man who abandoned her, but as a potential ally. After their meeting, they exchanged contact information, and Richard promised to keep her updated on the investigation. As Maya walked out of the building, the heavy weight of uncertainty lifted from her shoulders. The confrontation had been difficult, but it felt like a pivotal moment, a step toward reconciliation and change. Over the next few days, the investigation moved quickly. Richard kept Maya in the loop, sharing updates and seeking her input on how to handle various situations. They began to bond over their shared commitment to making the company a better place, and slowly, Maya began to trust him. One afternoon, they met again in Richard's office. I've spoken to HR, and they're taking your allegations seriously. They're conducting interviews with employees who have worked under Thompson, Richard explained. I want to hear your thoughts on how we can promote a culture of respect moving forward. Maya felt a rush of excitement. We could start with mandatory training sessions focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's essential for everyone to understand the impact of their words and actions. We should also create a safe reporting system for employees who experience discrimination. Richard nodded, clearly impressed. That's a great idea. We can work on developing an action plan and present it to the board. This is exactly the change we need. As they collaborated, Maya found herself opening up more about her life, sharing stories of her childhood and the struggles she faced growing up without her father. Richard listened intently, his expression full of empathy. I wish I could have been there for you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I know I can't make up for lost time, but I want to be part of your life moving forward. Maya hesitated, grappling with her emotions. I want to believe that's true, but it's hard to shake off the hurt. I've been on my own for so long. It's going to take time. I understand, Richard replied gently. I'm here for the long haul, no matter how long it takes. As the weeks passed, the internal investigation into Mr. Thompson progressed, and the atmosphere in the office began to shift. Employees were more aware of their language and behavior, and there were hints of change brewing. Maya felt a sense of purpose, knowing she was helping to pave the way for a more inclusive environment. But as much as she appreciated the progress, a nagging anxiety lingered. Would Richard truly follow through on his promises? Would he be able to stand up against Mr. Thompson when it mattered most? One day, as Maya prepared for another meeting with Richard, she received a text from Sarah. I heard Thompson is planning a counterattack. Be careful, Maya. The warning sent chills down her spine. What if Mr. Thompson tried to retaliate? She had already seen his ruthless nature, and now that she was working alongside Richard, she couldn't shake the fear of what might come next. The moment of truth was approaching. As Maya entered Richard's office, she steeled herself for the challenges ahead. The fight for justice was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she had someone in her corner. It was a new chapter, and she was ready to confront whatever came next. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity as Maya settled into her dual role of advocate and employee at the company. The air buzzed with palpable tension. Richard's commitment to addressing the toxic culture left by Mr. Thompson instigated ripples of change throughout the office. Employees, once hesitant to voice their concerns, were beginning to engage in conversations about discrimination and inclusivity. Maya had become the unofficial liaison between Richard and the marketing team. She facilitated meetings where employees could express their experiences and concerns. Each session revealed more about the underlying issues that had festered in the workplace for far too long. One afternoon, as Maya wrapped up a discussion with a group of employees, she received a message from Richard. "Can you meet me in my office? I need to talk to you about the investigation." Her heart raced. This could be pivotal. Gathering her notes, she made her way to Richard's office, her mind buzzing with anticipation. "Thanks for coming," Richard said as she entered, his expression serious but not without warmth. "We've been making progress with the investigation, and I wanted to share some updates with you." "Of course, what's happening?" Maya asked, taking a seat across from him. "I spoke to several employees, and it's clear that Mr. Thompson's behavior was not an isolated incident. Many have shared similar experiences, both with him and with the broader culture of the office. It's disheartening to hear," Richard said, rubbing his temples. "I can't believe I was oblivious to it for so long." Maya felt a pang of sympathy for Richard. He was genuinely grappling with the fallout from his predecessor's actions. "It's not your fault. The company has a long history of this kind of culture, but it's good that you're finally addressing it." "I want to ensure that everyone feels safe and valued here," Richard said, leaning forward earnestly. "But I need your help to navigate the next steps. I'm planning to confront Thompson about his actions, but I want to make sure we have a solid case against him. Can you help me compile the evidence?" "Absolutely," Maya replied, her resolve strengthening. "I've been documenting everything I can: comments, incidents, and witness statements. I can gather more testimonies from colleagues who are willing to come forward." "Good," Richard said, his eyes narrowing in focus. "The more support we have, the stronger our case will be. I'm also considering implementing immediate changes to our policies regarding workplace behavior and discrimination. We need to send a clear message that this kind of conduct will not be tolerated." Maya nodded, a sense of urgency building within her. "Let's draft a new policy that outlines our commitment to diversity and inclusion, along with a reporting mechanism for employees who experience harassment. We can propose it to the board." As they brainstormed ideas, Maya felt a sense of purpose wash over her. For the first time, she was not just fighting for herself. She was fighting for everyone who had been affected by the toxic environment. After their meeting, Maya returned to her desk, energized and ready to tackle the work ahead. She began reaching out to her colleagues, explaining the importance of their testimonies and encouraging them to share their stories. As she did, she found an unexpected ally in Jasmine, a fellow marketing employee who had previously kept a low profile. "Maya, I can't believe how brave you are for speaking out," Jasmine said one afternoon as they grabbed coffee together. "I've been afraid to say anything because I didn't want to jeopardize my job. But what Thompson did to you, it's appalling." "Thank you, Jasmine. It's not easy, but it's necessary," Maya replied. "I think we can create a safe environment for everyone if we come together and stand up against this." Over the next few days, more employees came forward to share their experiences. Maya listened intently as they recounted stories of discrimination, harassment, and fear. Each story solidified her belief that the company needed to change and that they could effect that change together. Meanwhile, Richard kept her updated on the investigation. He had spoken with the board about implementing new policies and had garnered their support. There was a palpable shift in the office, with employees feeling empowered to speak up. However, as the investigation continued, Maya noticed a change in Mr. Thompson's demeanor. He had grown more paranoid, often lurking in hallways and casting suspicious glances at employees. It was clear he sensed the shift in power, and Maya could feel the tension rising with each passing day. One afternoon, she and Richard met to review the testimonies they had gathered. The office was unusually quiet, and Maya could feel the atmosphere thickening with anticipation. Have you seen Thompson today? Richard asked, his brow furrowing as he scanned the documents on the table. No, but I've heard he's been acting strangely. I think he knows something is happening, Maya replied, a knot forming in her stomach. We need to be careful. I agree. I'm planning to confront him soon, but I want to ensure we're prepared. We can't let him intimidate anyone else, Richard said, determination hardening his features. Just then, the door swung open, and a tense-looking Mark, another employee from the marketing team, stepped inside. Maya, Richard, I need to talk to you both. It's urgent. Maya exchanged a worried glance with Richard before motioning for Mark to sit down. What's going on? I overheard Thompson talking to someone in HR. He knows about the investigation, and he's planning to fight back, Mark said, his voice shaky. He's saying he'll do whatever it takes to protect his position. Richard's jaw clenched. What does that mean for us? Mark shook his head, fear etched on his face. I'm not sure, but he's threatening to deny everything. He might even try to discredit anyone who speaks out against him. He mentioned making a counterclaim against Maya, saying she was unfit for the job. Maya's heart raced. He's trying to intimidate us. We can't let him get away with this. Richard's eyes narrowed. We need to prepare for a confrontation. If Thompson tries to undermine the investigation or intimidate anyone, we'll have to escalate this to the board immediately. We have the evidence, and we can't back down. Maya felt a surge of adrenaline. We need to support each other. If he threatens anyone, we'll all stand together. We can't let him divide us. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the office grew more charged. Rumors swirled, and employees were on edge. Maya, Richard, and the team worked tirelessly to compile their findings, organizing evidence and preparing their case against Thompson. Then the moment of truth arrived. Richard called for a meeting with Thompson, inviting him to discuss the allegations against him. The tension was palpable as Maya and Richard prepared in the conference room, going over the evidence one last time. I'm ready for this, Maya said, her voice steady despite her nerves. We're in this together, Richard replied, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. No matter what happens, we'll confront him as a united front. As the clock ticked down to the meeting time, Maya felt the weight of the moment settle over her. She was ready to confront the man who had tried to belittle her and erase her accomplishments. It was time to take a stand, not just for herself, but for everyone who had suffered under his reign. When Mr. Thompson entered the room, a chilling silence enveloped them. His demeanor was a mix of arrogance and tension. Maya could see that he was determined to defend himself, but she was equally determined to hold him accountable. Thank you for coming, Mr. Thompson, Richard began, his voice calm but firm. We need to discuss the serious allegations that have been raised against you. Maya has brought forth numerous accounts of discrimination and harassment, and we have gathered testimony from several employees. Thompson crossed his arms, his expression darkening. This is ridiculous. I don't know what you've been told, but Maya is unfit for this position. She's playing the victim to cover her incompetence. Maya felt her anger flare, but she forced herself to remain calm. That's not true, and you know it. I've worked hard for this company, and I will not let you undermine my efforts. You have treated me and others with disdain simply because of who we are. This stops now. Thompson's eyes narrowed, and Maya could see the threat in his gaze. You think you can just walk in here and make these accusations? I'll fight this tooth and nail. You'll regret it. Richard stepped forward, his expression unyielding. If you want to fight, then we'll take this to the board. We have the evidence and the support of your former colleagues. This is about more than just you. It's about creating a safe environment for everyone in this company. As Thompson glared at them, Maya felt a sense of clarity wash over her. This was her moment to reclaim her voice, to stand firm against the man who had tried to silence her for so long. I'm not afraid of you, Mr. Thompson, Maya said, her voice steady, and neither are my colleagues. We are united, and we will not back down. You've created a toxic environment, and it's time for you to face the consequences. Thompson's face darkened, and for a moment, Maya feared he might lash out. But instead, he clenched his jaw and stormed out of the room, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. As the door slammed shut behind him, Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had confronted the man who had tried to undermine her, and for the first time, she felt empowered. Richard turned to Maya, a proud smile on his face. You did it. We did it. This is just the beginning, and we will see this through. Maya nodded, her heart swelling with determination. They had taken a stand, and together, they were ready to fight for justice. The road ahead was uncertain, but she knew one thing for sure. She would not walk it alone. Together, they would create a new future for the company, one where respect and inclusion reigned. The atmosphere in the office was electric in the days following Maya's confrontation with Mr. Thompson. News of the allegations had spread like wildfire, and conversations about discrimination and inclusivity were taking center stage. Employees felt emboldened, sharing their experiences and supporting one another as the corporate culture slowly began to shift. Richard had taken decisive action, organizing an emergency board meeting to address the situation. The board had expressed their support for Maya and the initiative to combat discrimination within the company. They agreed to implement new policies focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, recognizing that change was not only necessary, but long overdue. Maya felt a swell of pride as she prepared for the board meeting, her heart racing with anticipation. This was her moment to advocate for herself and her colleagues on a larger platform, and she was ready to make her voice heard. She and Richard spent hours refining their presentation, ensuring every detail was clear and impactful. On the day of the meeting, Maya stood outside the boardroom, her palms sweaty with nerves. Richard placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You've got this, Maya. Your courage has already inspired so many. Just speak from the heart. Maya nodded, taking a deep breath to steady herself. She stepped into the room, the bright lights illuminating the faces of the board members. They were seated around a long table, their expressions serious but open. Thank you for allowing us to speak today, Richard began, his tone commanding yet warm. We are here to address the serious allegations of discrimination and harassment that have come to light, particularly concerning Mr. Thompson's behavior toward employees. Maya stood beside Richard, her heart pounding as she prepared to share her story. I want to start by acknowledging the courage of my colleagues who have come forward to support this investigation. This isn't just about me. It's about creating a workplace where everyone feels safe, valued, and respected. For too long, people have suffered in silence, afraid to speak out for fear of retaliation or being dismissed. But we can no longer allow this to happen. Discrimination has no place in this company, and we must take proactive steps to ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, is treated with dignity and respect. Maya's voice grew stronger as she spoke, her passion evident in every word. She shared stories of her experiences and those of her colleagues, detailing the microaggressions and blatant racism they had faced. As she spoke, she noticed the board members' expressions shifting from skepticism to empathy. Discrimination not only affects the individuals who experience it, but it also impacts the entire workplace environment. We need to create policies that foster inclusivity and provide a safe space for all employees to express their concerns without fear, Maya continued. I propose we implement mandatory diversity training, establish a clear reporting system for discrimination claims, and create an employee resource group to support underrepresented voices within the company. Richard chimed in. These changes will not only benefit our employees, but will also enhance our company culture and improve our reputation in the industry. We have a responsibility to lead by example, and it starts now. As they concluded their presentation, a heavy silence fell over the room. The board members exchanged glances, clearly processing the information they had just received. After a moment, the chairperson spoke up. Maya, Richard, thank you for your heartfelt presentation. Your courage in bringing these issues to light is commendable. We recognize the need for immediate action, and we will support your proposals. Maya felt a rush of relief and gratitude wash over her. It was a significant step forward, and she could see a glimmer of hope in her colleagues' eyes. They were ready for change. The board unanimously approved the new policies, and over the next few weeks, the company launched an initiative to educate employees about diversity and inclusion. Workshops were held, open discussions facilitated, and an employee resource group was established to ensure that all voices were heard. Maya played an integral role in the process, working alongside Richard and the HR team to implement the changes. Each workshop filled the conference room with conversations that were once taboo, and as employees shared their experiences, the bond between them strengthened. However, the journey was not without its challenges. Although Mr. Thompson had been placed on administrative leave during the investigation, there was still a lingering tension in the office. Some employees were resistant to the changes, clinging to the old culture that had allowed discrimination to thrive. One afternoon, as Maya was preparing for another workshop, she overheard a heated conversation between two colleagues. "I don't see why we have to change everything just because a few people are offended," one said dismissively. "It's just a workplace. We shouldn't have to tiptoe around everyone's feelings." Maya felt a surge of frustration, but knew she needed to address these sentiments constructively. She approached the group, taking a deep breath to steady her nerves. "Can we talk about this? I think it's important to understand why these changes matter." The two colleagues looked at her skeptically, but Maya pressed on. "It's not about tiptoeing around feelings. It's about fostering a work environment where everyone can thrive. When we create a culture of respect, it benefits all of us. We all want to feel safe and valued at work, right?" One of the colleagues, a woman named Emily, softened her expression. "I guess I never thought of it that way. I just don't want to feel like I can't speak my mind." "That's understandable, but we can speak our minds without being hurtful," Maya replied. "We can have honest conversations and learn from each other. It's not about silencing anyone. It's about creating a space where we all feel comfortable sharing." The discussion continued, and slowly, Maya saw a shift in their attitudes. By the end of the conversation, the colleagues agreed to participate in the upcoming workshops and share their thoughts on how to improve the workplace culture. As the weeks turned into months, Maya felt a sense of accomplishment as she watched the office transform. The support for diversity and inclusion initiatives grew stronger, and employees who had once been hesitant to speak out were now leading discussions. One afternoon, as Maya was organizing materials for an upcoming workshop, Richard walked in, a broad smile on his face. "I just came from a meeting with the board, and they're thrilled with the progress we've made. The company is starting to gain recognition for our commitment to diversity." Maya felt a rush of pride. "That's incredible. I can't believe how far we've come. It feels like we're finally making a difference." Richard nodded, his expression serious. "I want to thank you for your courage and dedication. You've been a driving force behind this change, and I couldn't have done it without you." Mina felt a warmth spread through her chest. Their collaboration had turned into something powerful, not just for the company, but for their relationship as well. They were learning to trust each other, and as they worked side by side, Maya found herself developing a deeper connection with Richard. One evening, as they were wrapping up a particularly long day, Richard turned to Maya, his expression sincere. "I know I can't change the past, but I want to be here for you moving forward. You're not just my daughter. You're an incredible woman with so much potential. I want to support you in whatever you choose to do." Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot to me." The bond between them had grown, and as they continued to work together, Maya felt a sense of closure begin to wash over her. The pain of her past was still there, but she was learning to navigate it alongside her father, forging a new path together. The culmination of their efforts came during a company-wide meeting where they celebrated the progress made. Richard stood before the entire company, pride evident in his voice as he spoke about the importance of the changes they had implemented. "This journey is far from over," Richard began, "but I want to acknowledge the courage of those who spoke up and shared their stories. You have inspired us all to create a workplace that values diversity and inclusion. We're committed to continuing this journey together as one united team." Mina stood among her colleagues, a sense of triumph swelling within her. The challenges they had faced had forged a new culture in the company, one that honored every individual's voice. As the meeting concluded, employees mingled, excitedly discussing the upcoming workshops and initiatives. Maya found herself surrounded by colleagues, sharing laughter and ideas, and for the first time, she felt a true sense of belonging. Later that evening, as she left the office with Richard by her side, Maya reflected on how far she had come. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but through it all, she had discovered her strength and resilience. With her father's support, she had transformed her pain into purpose, forging a new path for herself and others. The shadows of her past were slowly fading, replaced by a bright future filled with promise. As they stepped into the vibrant glow of the setting sun, Maya felt a profound sense of hope. She had reclaimed her voice, not only for herself, but for everyone who had ever felt unheard. Together with Richard, she was ready to embrace the future, ready to continue the fight for justice, and ready to build a legacy of inclusivity and respect. And in that moment, she knew this was just the beginning. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story of Maya's journey towards justice and reconciliation, make sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family to spread awareness about the importance of standing up against discrimination. If you want to see more inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can create a community that values inclusivity and empowerment. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.